Picture a samurai preparing for battle, not with a sword, but with a calm mind. In 17th century Japan, Musashi Miyamoto, undefeated in dozens of duels, credits his victories not to brute force but to stillness. His enemies rushed, frantic with rage or fear, while he stood steady, unshaken. What if the real secret to winning, at work, life, or leadership, is not speed or strength but stillness? Ryan Holiday's Stillness Is the Key dives into this ancient idea, opening a door to a forgotten power that's crucial now more than ever. But how do you find stillness when everything clamors for your attention? Let's unlock that. Your brain's a wild beast, darting from one shiny thing to the next. Holiday shows us the danger. Without control, chaos wins. But how do you tame this mental whirlwind? That's the first step on the path to stillness. In the Tower of London, King Charles I faced his execution with remarkable calm. Unlike the panic and despair you might expect, he spent his final hours in prayer and reflection, steady and unyielding. Holiday recounts this moment not to glorify martyrdom, but to highlight how stillness gave Charles clarity in catastrophe, a calm shield that shielded him from the chaos outside his cell. This quiet before the storm was his superpower, one that's surprisingly accessible to you too. Imagine your mind as a small boat on a wild ocean during a storm. The waves are racing thoughts, distractions, worries. Without an anchor, you're tossed endlessly. Holiday compares mental clutter to these wild waves. Stillness acts like that anchor, dropping deep beneath the noise, holding you steady. This isn't about emptying the mind completely, but about mastering the storm enough to choose which waves you ride and which you let pass. When stillness takes root, you unlock something transformative. Holiday points to leaders who, by cultivating inner calm, make tough decisions without paralysis. The payoff? Instead of chaos deciding your actions, your mind becomes a lens, sharp, focused, capable of seeing the path through even the thickest fog. Stillness doesn't dull your edge, it sharpens it, turning mental storm into crystal-clear clarity. The ego's a sneaky monster whispering false priorities. Holiday's got a message, your ego's biggest job, distracting you from stillness, but there's a way to outsmart it. Here's how slaying that dragon changes your game forever. Napoleon's bold rush toward Russia in 1812 ended in disaster, largely because his ego blinded him to the harsh winter and logistical nightmares. Holiday pulls this apart to show you what happens when your inner critic dulls the truth. Instead of humility and cautious strategy, ego fuels reckless decisions, and tens of thousands pay the price. It's not just historical drama, but a warning etched in frozen mud and corpses. Holiday likens ego to a foggy windshield on a speeding car. You think you're in control, but the distortion hides dangers until it's too late. Stillness clears that fog, wiping the glass so you see the road as it is, not as your ego wants you to believe. When you lower the volume of ego, your vision sharpens, your speed with it. Paradoxically, giving up ego isn't weakness. It's the gateway to your most potent self. Holiday explains that when you drop the need to prove, control, or boast, you free up energy. This freedom fuels creativity, empathy, and courage. So the story's twist, the less you try to be noticed, the more influence you actually have. When rage, fear, or jealousy grab hold, they hijack everything. Holiday insists, stillness isn't numbness, it's emotional mastery. Let's explore the puzzle of feeling deeply without losing yourself. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, faced exile, political blindness, and threats of death without falling apart. Instead of getting swept up by fear or anger, he wrote letters teaching how to embrace grief and fury without losing control. Holiday admires Seneca's tranquility not as cold logic, but as emotional fortitude, acknowledging feelings without letting them run the show, a real-life blueprint for today's emotional storms. Think of your emotions like wild horses galloping a dusty plain, beautiful, powerful, but impossible to control if you chase blindly. Holiday advises becoming a skilled rider, directing these horses instead of being dragged behind them. It's a dance of awareness, feeling anger or sadness fully, yet not letting them trample your reason or peace. That tension, managed with skill, births strength. The payoff? When you master emotions, they transform from wrecking balls into engines. Holiday points to athletes and artists who channel passion into laser focus during crucial moments. Instead of being overwhelmed, emotion becomes fuel, fuel that propels you forward with a crisp, steady stride instead of crashing into chaos. Overwhelm is the enemy of stillness. Holiday urges a ruthless declutter, not just of stuff, but of commitments, people, and media. But what if this minimalism unlocks more than just time? Henry David Thoreau's 2 years at Walden Pond are a classic story. A man seeking simplicity in a crazy world by chopping wood, fishing, and living intentionally. Holiday revisits this scene to show how Thoreau's retreat wasn't escapism, but a deliberate act of clearing distractions. His stillness birthed insights that still speak today. That cabin and pond weren't just a retreat, but a laboratory for focused living. Holiday compares constant noise, from social media, meetings, overcommitment, to static that garbles a radio signal. Your mind tries to tune into wisdom, but gets drowned out by endless chatter and notifications. Stillness lowers the static, allowing the signal to come through crisp and true. It's not about silence alone, but about choosing which sounds deserve your attention. The bonus twist: when you clear the clutter, you unlock creativity's secret door. Holiday points to artists and entrepreneurs who credit calm, minimal lives with their breakthroughs. The lesson: sometimes, less isn't just more, it's the only way to hear your own genius clearly. Stillness isn't passive, it's a steady launching pad. Holiday argues that purpose grounds you, action moves you. When combined with stillness, this trio becomes unstoppable. But what's the secret sauce? Winston Churchill, bombed relentlessly during WWII, faced the Blitz with unwavering resolve. His speeches weren't frantic panics, but steady affirmations of purpose that rallied a nation. Holiday spotlights Churchill as a leader who anchored stillness in iron conviction and relentless action. This isn't Zen passivity. It's intense, purposeful movement with a calm core, guiding through storms with crystal-clear intent. Holiday describes purpose as an internal compass. It doesn't magically clear obstacles, but tells you which mountains you're meant to climb. With purpose, distractions melt into background noise. This compass creates stillness because your energy isn't scattered. It flows naturally toward what matters. It's the difference between aimless busywork and focused momentum. The big reveal: stillness doesn't mean inaction. Instead, it powers deliberate, laser-guided steps. Holiday explains that when you act from stillness, you don't burn out or second-guess but pivot and persist with precision. That steadiness becomes a force multiplier, turning momentum into mastery and anxiety into accomplishment. Remember that samurai in Japan, still as the world rushed past? His victory wasn't about faster swords or louder battle cries, it was his steady mind. Now you've seen how stillness threads through history, from kings and warriors to philosophers and leaders. Try this. Tomorrow morning, before the noise takes hold, breathe deeply, find one small, quiet moment, and practice letting your mind steady. Not because life demands stillness, but because you deserve its power to think clear, act right, and live fully. Subscribe for more book summaries like this one.